Shorewood Park Sanitary District for September. We'll start off by taking roll call. I'm Rich Stork, and I'm the chairperson.
Dean Fundell, treasurer.
Matt Anderson, vice chair.
Al Powers, board member.
Sue Means, board member. Tina Heidelberger, clerk.
Okay, very good. We'll move right into looking for, everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from last August 5th meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections or amendments to these meeting minutes?
I only had one copy. I apologize because normally we don't have guests, so you guys will have to share the minutes. Feel free to see your door.
I sure did.
I'll give you a second, guys, to take a look at that, and then if everybody's okay with it, I didn't have any amendments. I'll be looking for a motion to approve the August 5th meeting minutes.
First motion.
Second.
Motion's carries to approve Tuesday, August 5th meeting minutes, and we will sign those and get those notarized before the end of the day. All right, we're going to move right into the wastewater operator updates. Terry is not here today, but he did provide me with some information on some of the things that he dealt with this month. Are you guys good?
Yep, she's good. She just had a quick question,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, no, that's fine. So the wastewater update, let me know when you're ready there, Tina. I don't know if you
I already
prepared
typed it in from Terry, so you're good to go.
Okay, so the total for the month of influent or wastewater that we moved in the month of August was 335,050 gallons. That's the total for the month. The high day was 1,400 gallons, basically 14,100 gallons. The low was 9,308 or 9,300. So that's an average for the month of 10,808. So that was a pretty decent month. All right, this must be Terry tossing a bunch of stuff
It
off.
is.
It is. Have to help you work on this? No. Okay. So that's our flow at all influent that went out. Is there any questions on that, those totals?
I just had a comment about Terry. I saw him drive off to the ponds yesterday on a holiday. So we think he's doing a wonderful job for us.
Oh, thanks. We'll make sure we let him know that. Yeah, he does work all the time, that's for sure.
Rich, I did add to the meeting, to the notes here that you said that the router was replaced and that that's taken care of the issue.
Yeah, if you guys recall, and it's part of the meeting minutes, our sewer system is monitored electronically, and it dials out and it records the flowage. That's how Terry keeps record of it, and that's how we keep record of it electronically. We're having issues with the modem, which would dial up that information last month and the month before it would go offline. So Terry did replace that modem, and that did take care of that. I would expect we'll see a bill for that coming in next month that we'll have to approve. So that was some old business from last month, and that problem was correct. Terry and I are still working on the permit. We're really close. The last thing that they're looking for is, it still has to do with the new treatments that we have to do over the pond, and that's for phosphorus. I think they've agreed on the amount of elm that we have to treat the ponds with. I think they're okay with the plan of using a boat to spread that elm in that secondary pond. But their question now is, how are we going to get the boat in and out with damaging the liner? So Terry is coming up with a plan. He has a plan. We'll submit that plan. He's hoping he can get, I don't know, skidsters. They use these plastic mats that they lay down. He's thinking he can lay that down on the riprap and then back that small pontoon in. So we'll see if they approve that. If they don't, I think we might have to come up with an alternative plan. There's other options. And like we could pick that boat up with a lull if we rented that for the day to drop that in there too, but it's important that we don't damage that liner, so we'll see where that goes. But that's the last step on the permit.
I know that he was recommending a pontoon, but that seems like a moderate overkill to the size of the ponds.
Well, I think it really determines, and these were gonna be some of the questions I had for Terry, is what is the gallon? Is it a liquid? Or is it a granular? How is he dispersing it? Is he doing it with a spreader? You know, does he need that much buoyancy to do that? Those were some of the questions, and I guess I'm really relying on him.
Right, I mean, I am too, and I'm not.
So I think,
questionable, but
yeah, so I think he's mentioned a small pontoon. Again, I'm gonna rely on him to come up with a plan. And just keep in mind, this treatment that we're doing or proposing to the MPC is kind of, they're giving us a grace period to experiment with it so we can dial it in to get the right treatment done. So this may not be the permanent means of putting that in, especially since we don't have any power out there, but it's a short-term solution that will be written into this 5-year permit. And they'll give us that grace period to dial that in. Just to bring everybody up to speed, we have been budgeting for this new treatment that we have to do for the ponds. We started that at the beginning of this year for budgeting, based on rough order of magnitude of what it might cost. So that's what I have from Terry this month, so that's still ongoing. I'll reach out this month to him, we'll talk about when he's planning on doing the discharge. It's typically end of September going into October, but we'll look for that update. As far as what did Rich do this month? Worked with Terry on permitting, trading back some emails back and forth with the MPCA and Terry. I did put out an invitation to all the board members for a seminar that was put out by MAP, that's our partner in helping us stay organized. I did attend 3/4 of that meeting, and I do have a copy of that meeting. I think I'm going to send it out to you guys. I'd like you guys to watch it on your own time. It's about an hour, but it's basically good practices on how a board should operate, and I think it's good, continuing at our training. So I'll send that out to you guys and kind of take a look at it in your own leisure. But there was some good information in there, based on what I've seen, the information that Chris set us up and started us moving down the path in the right direction. We're doing a pretty good job as organized as we are. So it'll just sharpen up our skills as board members. So I'll send that out to you guys, and hopefully you guys get a chance to look at that. And that's pretty much it, other than working with Sue and the rest of the group on the National Night Out. So I probably, we'll move on to that, we'll get to that point. So is there any questions on the chairman and the wastewater operator updates? Very good. We'll move right into financial updates.
All right. Current checking account balance as of today was $109,784.91. Our investment fund balance was $225,983.74. And our cash value balance as of today, 7/30, was $33,392.58. The bills that we have this month are Essential Energy for $181.52, LJJ for $1,700, and Rasmussen for $1,683.21 for August mowing. So Sue will be sending those down. I also am sending along with it copies of the August 5th meeting minutes and also July, because I had to make changes, so these need to be signed by all board members so I can notarize them. Looking for a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make the motion to approve the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries for August bills approval. All right, we'll move on to old business. Right off the top is expansion updates. Do we have anything that you need to share with us tonight, Dean, on the expansion?
Not a lot new. Chris Ziegler from MAP from the state of Minnesota has been working with Elon, who is our specialist for the EPA, and she's from Chicago. And so they've been going back and forth with our paperwork, which is budget and work plan, plus some other items. And I believe the situation is that there's a board of the EPA that needs to authorize the release of the funds, and they need this paperwork to do that. So that means that P1 is working with Chris to get the right wording and the right information so that it will go smoothly through this EPA board. So they're going back and forth. We will plan on having another Zoom meeting with P1 and Chris, but we haven't had that set up yet. Once they get closer to the finalizing, they'll let us know. That's as far as I know right now.
So still a work in progress. Old business, I don't think there's any other channel update you need to give us, Sue. We can kind of close that item at this particular point in
At
time.
this time, yes. As far as, close it, as far as like getting it dredged.
Okay. It's not a dead thing, but as far as the dredging, that's closed.
The dredging is closed.
Okay.
Um,
We'll wait for any new updates and we'll
Yeah.
approach that when they
Yeah,
come.
Doug O'Brien hasn't contacted me again, so.
All right, we'll approach that once that comes up again. All right, we're gonna move on to speed bumps and an update. We are still getting speed bumps. I'll let Al bring everybody up to speed on those.
After our last meeting, I called Darren at Blacktop, roofing a new Blacktop, and he said they would order them, they'd have them in early last week. So I texted him on Wednesday, and called him, and I haven't heard back. Okay. But he did say that he's gonna send a person out, and we're gonna mark where the speed bumps are. But I think we're gonna be better off holding off until next spring now, since it's so late in the season. It's up to, I don't know.
Well, I
We
think
have it by now.
I'll comment on that. I would think that the speed bumps would have to be off by August 15th, no later, just in case any kind of early snow came, because they will not plow our roads if we have speed bumps. So they would have to be off by August 15th or October 15th anyways. So I guess, I don't know if we have to make a motion for that, since we really never put any rules down into play, specifically when, you know, the speed bumps would go down or when they would get picked up, but it's in my opinion that we should probably hold off on putting them down this year, especially since we don't even have them yet. They'd be down for 4 weeks and we could pull them back up
Right,
again.
and why spend the extra money for that?
Right, so does anybody else have any comments on that?
Sounds logical to me, so.
Yeah, is there any installation, like prepping that they do for them that they could do this year yet?
I personally, from what I've seen and what I think they are, they just get staked down.
Oh,
They just get, it's like a special leg screw that screws right into the asphalt,
okay.
and then that'll pull it out. So when they come in and patch, they'll patch where it was before, and probably move it over a little bit. Or in
Gotcha.
the same place, so there's not a lot of prep for it, other than
Okay.
where do you want it. We did get a lot of positive feedback on the speed bumps from the upper and the lower area, so I think we're moving in the right direction there. We have seen plenty of people, you know, go over the speed limit with many more kids using the park, so. All right, that's the speed bump updates. Any questions? All right. I think we'll move into new business, and I have a couple items here that I want to first start off with. Well, really only one. It is coming into road plowing season. Our contract does expire this year, so I'll be reaching out to the township to reinstate or update our permit or our contract for snow plowing. So I will shoot off an email and see where that stands with the township.
I just talked to Heather today, we had lunch together today.
Okay.
And the only thing she's gonna send over a copy of the updated contract is just a change in pricing.
Okay.
That's the only change.
Okay.
So once she does that, I'll forward it to the group, but did she sent it at 6:17 PM.
Okay, well, that's good. So I guess what we'll do is we'll review that snow plowing contract,
Okay.
and then we'll bring it up to the meeting. We still have time to bring that up next meeting.
I'll actually just forward it to the board, the
Okay.
email that I got from her, so that it has all the pricing included in it.
Okay?
So I apologize, I didn't see that.
That's all right. It is what it is. I just wanted to make sure we got it on the agenda here today.
How much is it going up?
Let me see here. So for 2025 to 2027, motor grader, grading or plowing is 150 an hour, wheel loader is 135 an hour, plowing or spreading gravel is 135 an hour, but I'm looking to see, I don't have the old contract
That's all right.
to compare it to, so I apologize, but
No,
I'll
it's all
forward
right.
this along to everybody.
I mean, I think based on my memory, I don't see that huge of a change, but most of the time, they just use the truck to plow anyways. For the last 2 years in our contract, we never went over the money that they get from Midco, so hopefully we have another winner like that.
What did you just say about Midco?
The royalties that Midco pays
Mhm.
the township, we never went over the amount. They've always been able to cover our plowing with the royalties. So our budget that we put away is basically we've been banking money for when it does go over or what.
So we still,
We have money in the budget for plowing, yes. We started budgeting 2 years ago, so we've built up an SA for
but
plowing.
our Midco is continuing.
Yes, yeah.
Is there a deadline when Midco's gonna stop doing that, or?
Not that I know, historically, I don't know, that deal was with the township and Midco. And the price does go up depending on how many people on this side of the township use Midco. So if the numbers come down, the royalties go down. More people use Midco, the royalties go up. I'm just more concerned that it, keeps us at an even balance that we don't have to pay for plowing.
So, and we should be prepared to approve this. So their next meeting is October 14th for Nestle Township. So I'll add this to the agenda for us to approve this for our meeting in October because it's the week prior,
That'd be perfect.
so that we can get that back to them. So just keep that in your minds to make sure that everybody takes a look at that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, because plowing season starts November 1. All right. Is there anything else with the board member on new businesses? If not, we have a couple guests here tonight. Jody Mahar is, I'm going to give her the floor. She wants to talk about historical data of Shorewood Park and explain some things that have happened here in the past to bring us up to speed.
Well, I got a chance to go through the paperwork from the sanitation district, and I found a lot of information. I knew some of it, and some of it I didn't know, and some of it might still be a bit of a mystery. Back in 1996, the residents of Shorewood wanted to collaborate with the sanitary district for the lights and the roads because we were having trouble. There was an association, Shorewood Association, was having trouble collecting money from some of the residents. And if we collaborated with the sanitary district, we could get them to do a levy on the taxes or, somehow they could get the money out of them. And so it made a lot of sense to us. At the time, and all before that, the 5 parcels, there's 5 total, including the landing and the 2 acres and then the 2, those parcels were under government. It said government there. So that's how it was mapped out in the very beginning. So when Franson created all this, it was considered a government property, and they did a quick claim. We did, residents of Shorewood did a quick claim to turn over all of those areas and the roads and the electricity for the lighting to the sanitation district. But the sanitation district was never to change those areas and put them on the tax docket. They were supposed to keep them as government properties somewhere, and I didn't find the paperwork. That got changed. John and I have looked at properties all the time, we buy and sell, and we noticed in 2016 that it was no longer a government parcel, that it was considered the sanitary district owning that, and the sanitary district paying taxes on it.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. When you say those properties were zoned government, does that mean they're tax-free? There's no
Yeah,
tax?
We were considered a tax exempt entity before that.
Okay.
I can't find all of the old Shorewood stuff. Once that dissolved and this reopened, I couldn't find the paperwork. I imagine that somewhere along the line it might be in the boxes in there, but that wasn't part of the sanitation district at that time.
Okay. So what you're saying is in 2016,
That's when we noticed. I think that, I went back into taxes. It looks like back taxes were paid, or, like if the change happened in 2016, when we noticed it, I had looked back, there was taxes paid on it all along. And in the quit claim deed, that was never to happen, but it did happen, and I don't know when it happened. It was always, and part of the claim was, it was always to stay as a government property. It was never to be taxed.
no, do you think, so there's no real way that we can tell, who initiated this change of deed or?
I can tell you that.
Okay.
So the people of Shorewood, we have all sorts of documents along with ones that are signed by lawyers, had decided, they had meetings and they had decided to have a special meeting of the directors and the shareholders of Shorewood Park Property Owners Association. And it has the dates on it, and it explains in here how we wanted to have help, and we paid the sanitary district money to take it over. We had dues, we had all this that we were collecting. So when we gave this entity to the sanitation district, we also gave them all of our money. We gave them $11,000, and that was supposed to be put into the roads and the lights. And then we gave them $2,000 more, and that was supposed to be the Beautification Act in the sanitation district. So the sanitation district was supposed to be a sanitation district, and it was also supposed to be Shorewood Park beautification. I've got a bunch of notes here showing that the Beautification Act was activated. It was supposed to work along with the sanitary district, and part of that was to keep all the common areas natural and remaining the same, and never sold and never developed. And so the parks itself is part of the sanitation, but the way that it's worded to us is it says that the purpose of the special meeting is to consider transferring the responsibility of associations' common areas to Shorewood Park Sanitary District. Explain that the members of the association were also all members of the sanitary district, so we were all park owners and part of that whole program. Sanitary district has the authority to tax the members, which we wanted, to help with maintaining the roads and the lights. It would be a good idea to eliminate the responsibility for some of those common areas, it says in there. She also explains that the sanitary district does not have to pay real estate taxes on the property under the sanitary's control. And I've got it over and over again that there was never to be changed over, never to be paid taxes. However, I have to say, the sanitary district does own those areas, but they weren't supposed to be taxed. That was part of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, the sanitary district is part of all the people who are on it. And this was before there were supposed to be all these expansions. There's like 8 expansions that they had going around Shorewood. I've seen all that paperwork, but that should have been separate entities run by separate programs with separate lift stations or whatever. I don't know enough about the sanitary district. But what we have here was supposed to be kept for us as residents of Shorewood. And that's why when people moved in, we were cutting the grass, because if we were owners, if we were getting sued, the sanitary district, we're all getting sued, so to speak. Like if an accident were to happen, I'm saying, that's why we wanted to take care of it ourselves. There were bigger things that would happen, like a tree that maybe needed to get taken. So there was also trees that would be hanging over roads that the sanitary district would take care of. And there was not accidents, but trees that would fall down in the park, and we would just all get together. The Beautification Act, and part of this, decided that they didn't need to necessarily sit with you guys and talk about this, so they just went off on their own and just started cleaning and doing all their own things. So they had been cutting the grass before that, before all this happened in '96. They wanted to keep it the same. And they wanted to keep doing that, and they wanted to have, have control over what was happening in those parks. Somehow or another, that changed when it changed from a government parcel to the sanitary district parcel on the maps, or however it changed. I don't really know how that happened. Somebody had to go in and put in the sanitary district name. I've got many notes in here that says that D. Woods was going to go in and make some changes, and I've got them all here for you guys to look at more. It wasn't supposed to happen that way, but that's obviously what happened. There's things in there about checking on, here's one. D. Woods met with J. Thorne, and J. Thorne gave an application to keep the property exempt. Application for property exemption should be taking place, and it just didn't take place. See, somebody went in there and changed it. I imagine that they wanted, because the sanitary district owned that, they wanted a name on it, but it was fine being government land. It didn't need to be changed.
So we don't know,
So it does belong to you guys now. But does it belong to
let's
all
just
of
be
us?
clear, when we say us guys, that's still
No,
all of us.
I meant just,
Yeah, right.
the sanitary district, I'm not saying you or if I say, but with the question is, are we all the sanitary district? Because that's the way the wording to me sounds, is that we as Shorewood members are the sanitary district.
Correct.
And so us as members of the sanitary district, along with the beautification, should be able to have control over this, or we should be voting. There should maybe be a vote on, if everybody wants to cut their own grass and we want to send somebody to the places that don't want to cut their own grass, it's not costing as much. We should all have a vote in that.
Agreed.
And I know that not very many people come to these, but maybe some votes should be online and should be written and decided a little bit differently, because I believe that a lot of the people who have been here for a really long time, we couldn't understand why new rules were being set, because it was always, we just thought that we paid for it. In the long run, what happened was that now we are paying taxes on that, because we are the sewer, and so we are paying extra on our bills.
Correct.
So-
We do budget money. Every week we budget money as a sanitary district to cover our taxes. So that's part of the monthly bill that everybody pays, so everybody does pay for those taxes. So yes, it does. Everything you're saying is true. So it's still, I don't think, it still belongs to everybody.
Yeah, I believe
It's
that it
just,
does.
it's just there's been a change on how we've been managing the parks, okay? So when we took over, and when this was handed to us with little or no information, we had to go back and kind of rebuild the board and put together an organization to run it, right? So we understood that the sanitary district, based on the information that we had, paid taxes on the parks. So, we don't want to manage the parks. I mean, it's more than what the sanitary district really wants to do. We just want to make sure the sewer system is taken care of, the roads are taken care of, and the lights are taken care of, right? That's the main thing of the sanitary district.
That is what it's supposed to
But
be.
what had happened is, all these different ideas about how the park should be taken care of, because Jody, people move in and move out, not all the same people are there, right?
Yeah.
So there were complaints from certain people, not everybody, but, that not everybody wanted to mow the lawns, right? So, we had no historical data of what the rules are for the parks, there's no association, so we just tried to manage the best we could. So, that's, in all the meetings, we came up to the conclusions of, somebody's got to take care of the parks. Not everybody wants to mow it. If somebody wants to put a plan together and put a group together and start managing that park, all of us up here are all for that.
Just one interjection. The main idea behind having somebody mow the grass is because we do own the property, and if 12 different people are mowing the grass and somebody gets hurt, we are legally responsible for their injury because we own land. And for instance, when I moved in, I got a knock on my door 2 weeks after I moved in. Oh, you gotta go mow your section off the park. And that was never, it's not my property. I was never told that. The realtor didn't tell me that. It was never disclosed to me before I moved in that I had to mow my section of the park. So that kind of got this ball rolling in my mind that, well, I'm spending all this money repairing my mower and spending time doing that when, it's a really gray area. And so we had to kind of nail it down. Well, if the board owns the park, if everyone owns the park, there's two options. Everyone gets drafted to mow the parks in a fair way, or we let the parks go back to nature.
Well,
And so we decided to hire a service to do it because there was a lot of discussion about the parks being mowed, increasing our property value. And whether or not you believe that or not, that was a main focus of, well, that's why we should keep the parks maintained.
I know that there's always going to be people who don't want to mow the park, but that's where the people that are on, like, Sue, where you live. And there's that whole side on the channel going down, partway down anyhow. There's places there are a few houses that aren't on that shore. They would have to be part of that decision-making if we were to go back to something like that. Because they should be putting in their part too. That's part of keeping our taxes down. That's part of, sadly enough, we should not be taxed on this, but we are now.
Yeah.
So because of that, I just think that it's something that they should have to be part of and consider. Like everybody, every single resident decides, yes, I want to go back to that, no, I don't want to go back to that. I don't really care. I just wanted to be able to sit down and talk about how it came to be and why it came to be. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I'm not trying to say that this is the way it should be, but I do think that there are a lot of residents who have been there for a really long time that are wondering what's going on, and I feel like this might be the answer to it.
So the reason behind that is if we don't just across the board hire a service, have somebody do it that has insurance, that's covered, and so we're all relinquished of our responsibility of having the parks maintained. If we go back to the old way, then we're going to have to start assigning people mowing and policing who mows. And
I don't think it has to be that complicated. It never was complicated before. There was people that didn't want to do it all along. We just figured it out. And if we had, a teenage kid that lived in Shorewood and wanted to do it for a few bucks, and it came out of the Shorewood Sanitary District pot, I think that would be fine too. We've always had mowing costs because I think that they have to mow around the pond, right? The sanitary.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there's always going to be some cost there. I'm just saying that if it doesn't go out to a neighbor, maybe we can figure something else out. That as long as it's a resident, we probably all should sign something that if we decide that this is what we're going to do, we all should sign some kind of a waiver that says that we're responsible for our own health on the property that we're mowing in those yards. You wouldn't sue yourself for falling down in your own yard. So I just think that this is part of what we all own together. And if people wanted to make this change and they wanted to, cut down their own branches and tree limbs there in their area where they cut the grass or whatever it may be, it should be brought to the table that it can be a choice, but there have to be rules around that. And we have to get the people on board that do not have park openings in their area, because it's really not fair if a resident doesn't want to mow the grass.
And so that's where I'm getting at, is then we have to start knocking on doors, and you need to be a part of this park.
I believe that it's going to be easier than that. I think it's going to be much easier. We figured it out before, and people who don't want to mow then we just got to figure out who's going to do it. But we're all pretty neighborly, and we all are pretty friendly. I don't think that we're going to have that much trouble organizing something like that.
Okay. Well, there are people that choose to not pay their bill, and we have to go after those folks. And we're legally mandated, and we have the responsibility, and we have the authority to go after those people, and we choose not to, sue people to get their bills. We try to do it neighborly, but that's a legal bill that people are refusing to pay. this is an elective, lawn care service that not everybody's equipped to, take the responsibility for it. Not everybody has a nice lawnmower or, have their health that they could mow the lawn. And then so the board just decided the easiest way for us to do this and the fairest way, because then everybody has to pay for this lawn service. And if everybody's property is affected by these parks being maintained, then if everybody pays for this service, it's just the fairest way about, just taking care of this issue.
Yeah, I understand why it came about. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I understand that exactly.
And I'm all for
I
it.
can tell you that
if-
the park looked a lot better when we were taking care of it ourselves. The
I
grass,
would agree with that.
yeah.
Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that everyone should be aware of what the decision or the process of getting this changed or, a new way of doing things, because I just have this feeling that, down the road, someone's gonna say, well, no one ever said anything to me, or, you know what I mean? I wanna, whatever we do, I don't wanna cause dissension in our community.
I think. I agree.
And not everybody looks on the page, not everybody, as you can see, comes to a meeting. I don't know if they watch the meeting. So I think it's really important. And the pump house, I never look, well, of course, I'm on the board, but I don't really look at it. I just think it's important that everyone is notified somehow. And yeah, when we first come up here, we were just like, oh, we didn't even know that who was mowing it, so.
It's been kind of, everything you brought up, we've discussed the last 2 years, and we've kind of got to the point we are now, all right? It took us, a half year before we found out that, yeah, we can have the residents sign a waiver and they can do that work in there, and that relieves us of that liability. But we had to go through that process, and we had to find those things out for ourselves. So what did we have to start off with? We had, all of a sudden, we had the parks, and we have to come up with a bunch of rules of how to maintain the parks, right? So then we started going down the line of the mowing, and then the trees would come down, and how do we deal with that? Everybody wants to pitch in, they want the parks to look beautiful, right? But it's how do you maintain those rules, and how do you get the rules out there? Again, we don't want to have to manage the parks. We have enough managing the sewer system, right? So I think there's some sort of middle ground here. We all do realize that, we all own the parks. We're covering the bill, with the sanitary district and our monthly, paying the taxes, and everybody's included in that. So they're all paying their bid, and if they're not paying it, we have the right to tax them. And we do have to tax some people to collect their yearly dues. And that's the advantage of being, a taxable entity. And I think that's why originally you signed it over in the first place, because quite frankly, it's hard to keep an organization together and to get volunteers to continue to do that. You're gonna get a lot of people that are gonna help for a while, but as the transition happens and people move in and out, and some people lose interest, it just ends up being on a few people taking care of the parks and taking care of everything.
The other important thing to remember here is we're talking about $350 extra that we pay for the parks to be mowed. I know the lawn mowing bill is through the roof, and I hate looking at it, but the upper park is $200, the lower park is $100, and the small park at the very end by Anderson Point is $40. So we're talking about $340 divided by 100 people is $3.40 each person pays a mow. So it's under $10 to have all the parks maintained a month.
Now, Dean is very receptive to, if it doesn't need to be mowed, he won't mow it.
Well, he mows right over, we still cut our grass, and he mows right over where we cut.
Okay, so
So I'm telling you, I just cut that, and, literally hours later, I see him cutting grass I just cut.
right.
It's like, he doesn't need to do that, and I'm sure that he's gonna get paid the same, but.
Well, he sends a guy out, he says, mow the park, mow the park. They weren't mowing the area down below us, because sometimes it gets mowed down there and sometimes it doesn't. And when they decided it wasn't when we were mowing it. So we need to understand what the middle ground is, there might be a scenario where he comes in only once a month and everybody else takes care of it in between. it just, somebody has to do the legwork, somebody has to put it together. And yeah, you're right, how do you get people involved? I mean, somebody's gotta organize it and come up with some sort of rules without having an association. So, I don't know, it could be some subcommittee, tied into the Shorewood Park Sanitary District, and they come and report, or they give the information to us.
I think that
There's a lot of different ways that we can tackle this, and by all means, if you can come up with a plan or somebody wants to do the work, we're really receptive to anything. I don't think we're ever gonna change that the Shorewood Park Sanitary District doesn't pay the taxes for that, because the
No,
government's
I
getting their
don't think
money.
that's gonna go back.
And that's what they're
And
always gonna
it's a
want.
shame that we
Yeah.
all are paying for something that we shouldn't have had to pay.
Did you find out from the Chisago County, Jody, of any type of,
When it got changed over?
yeah, or the names,
No,
or,
but I
I
do
mean,
have-
submitted?
I do have, I did bring it with me, I do have in the minutes that somebody had gone up to the courthouse and asked them, how did this get changed? It was government property, they had no answers.
Really?
Yep, they're like, we don't know, we don't.
Well, somebody had to, somebody had to hire a lawyer to do the documentation, because the past board people couldn't have drafted that information for the county to, somebody had to draft it, they had to accept it. And I don't know where the pressure was, if it was coming from the county, or if they just decided to change that entity, because why would you not want to keep it tax-free?
And how would we
Well,
benefit?
the
I
only-
guess that's my question is, why was it made? Like,
Yeah.
why was the change made? Because,
I don't know, because in all the paperwork, it says that we want the sanitary district to take this over, but the one thing we really don't want you to do is change this tax
Yeah.
exempt. And anytime the taxes and those parcels came up, it just says, D. Wood is checking into this, D. Wood is checking, and then
Here's an
there's
interest-
nobody else that says anything except for the changeover, that he was in charge of whatever
Here's
the
an
taxes.
interesting tidbit on that. If it's government property, it can't be developed ever.
Yeah.
But if somebody owns it and they're paying taxes on it, it can be sold.
Right, and in the paperwork and in the contracts and the sale, it was just a quick deed sale. It states in there that it needs to always be government, it always needs to stay the same, it's always tax exempt, and nobody can, in fact, I've got a whole bunch of paperwork that says no structures could ever be built, nothing could ever, just little notes and bits and pieces from all different sources here. Here's one.
So Jody, what you're telling me is that whoever went in there and did this back in, let's just say 2016, that's because that's as far back as you can see the taxes were paid, they basically breached that contract.
Yes.
And they were able to breach that contract, but they must have known, or that the county didn't know. So they basically, like I said, some legal document had to be written up to
And
oversee.
they should have a copy of that.
You would
That
think-
would- the county
Well, I went
would-
as far as to talk to Dennis Franson's people,
Mhm.
and he doesn't have anything, but he did want it to stay government parcel, and he did want us to have the freedom to do what we wanted with it.
I think if you look, right now, if you look at the tax, you can go on the website, and they have that tax website that shows all our parcels. I still believe the 2-acre lot is still tax exempt. That's the only one out of our properties, out of the 5, that is still listed as tax exempt. Because if you go back and look at all the PID numbers that we're taxed, that one doesn't have one, it actually says tax exempt. So that 2-acre lot is still listed as tax exempt, I believe since the last time I looked at it. And I think I looked at it when Danny wanted us to sell that over and over and over again to the developer that, he wanted to sell the other 18 acres off to. So, for some reason, that's still tax exempt.
There's this kind of a mystery to me, because when I go in and just look back, we noticed at 2016, but back taxes then had to have been paid, because I went all the way back to 2009, and taxes were paid all the way back to 2009. So I don't know if whoever went in there and changed that also then had to pay all his back taxes, or if it got changed then and I didn't notice it,
Yeah.
So there's definitely, contracts that say it should never have been changed in the first place. And it was considered government property, and because it was considered government property, we decided that we would just all take care of it. But It was signed over to the sanitation
Yeah.
district. It just, the sanitation district broke its contract, making it so that it was a taxable item, which then in turn we all pay for because that's how it goes.
Well, wouldn't this be recorded? Who did the changes down at the courthouse or the county?
I just went online. I didn't go down to the courthouse.
Okay, and usually it's recorded who
I'm
made
sure
those
I'm
transactions.
sure there is some records. I didn't take the time to go down.
I guess the question is,
And it doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's gonna go back. We're all paying taxes on it anyhow. I just think it's kind of silly to do that. What's happening here, this all came up because of the water meeting, where we had to build, we need to possibly put in a second well. And somebody there said, well, we have to get permission for this, for that. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't have to get permission for that. I mean, I do think it's nice to ask, but we really shouldn't have to. This is part of the utilities, part of how we can survive and live, at least some of us with the water.
So did you want to talk with us today about permission for that new well? Because that new well is supposed to be going in. Did you guys want to?
I don't want to talk about that because we no longer are president, so it would have to come from the president.
yeah, we'll let the association bring that to us.
I don't have any control over any of that anymore.
Well, I guess to circle back, Jody, I guess we're all under agreement that Shorewood Park Sanitary District, which is really all of us, owns those properties.
Yeah,
The biggest concern is that the Shorewood Park Sanitary District doesn't ever sell any of those properties, right? Now and in the future, I would imagine something would have to be written to that effect that no properties could be sold unless it was approved by all members by majority vote, right?
I do think that needs to be, that is part of my concern, because I don't want a parcel getting sold off when we're all partial owners and we all have some interest in it, so.
Okay, let's do it right now.
We've already had a contract be,
Right. So I think we can take care of that by making a motion and passing that right now. We could get that documented in the meeting minutes. But I just want to make it clear that those properties are an asset for the Shorewood Park Sanitary District. And if there was ever some sort of catastrophe with our ponds or something like that, and we needed to come up with funds and it went above, that would be that might be an avenue to get funds in a quick scenario. But if anything like that ever came up, again, it would have to go through a board approval, and the right board would make sure that all residents would be part of that decision, because that's major money spending, and we'd have to make sure that everybody's paying attention if there was something like that going on, so.
And we don't want to sell these parks to a developer and have somebody put in a
Nobody
park
wants us to
building or
change the way
something
it
right
is.
in the middle of our neighborhood. Like, we don't want to lose this property, so what probably would happen is that we would put up the property for a loan in order to fix the problem and then pay off that loan.
Right.
So
So
that land is worth.
the land is worth, it's an asset for the sanitary district and everybody here as people living here. And just as far as historical data goes, just even back when I was on the board, Danny wanted to sell that 2-acre lot over and over and over again, and we fought and said, no, we're not gonna sell it, we're not gonna sell it. We denied it and denied it and denied it. Every time he came with it, I got a check in my hand, I got a check in my hand. So that's just proof that none of us wanna give up any of the property that's here right now, so.
Well, I first the motion that all 5 board members would have to agree to do anything with any parcel, upper, lower, or other words, and
We would have to ask for a majority rule from the rest of the residents before.
and that we would need majority rule from all residents upon a vote.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm
Yeah,
wording
no, I
this
agree, that
correctly.
was kind of jumbled. So I first the motion that all 5 board members would have to approve any type of
Land transaction.
land transaction concerning any extended uninhabited land or any additional parcel, I don't know how you want to say that, owned by the Shorewood Park Sanitation District.
You could actually even look up the parcel numbers.
That's what I was doing right now.
And put in there.
And then I don't know if you want to put the verbiage in there that we wouldn't vote on it until we did, took up, it would be a majority vote of all members of Shorewood Park Sanitary District.
They would be notified and
Yeah.
asked to vote and the majority rule.
Now, when it does come up to, we need a second to that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I just want to mention one more thing. You can finish, you need to finish.
Oh, we're,
Part of all of this says that the sanitary district also has a beautification committee. That's what it's called in here. It's
Okay.
what part of the paperwork is part of the contracts that were written and signed. I don't know if that's something that people want to start again. It would be kind of like a sister to the sanitation district, but it wouldn't be completely.
It would be a
run by-
committee, basically,
Yeah,
you look at it as a committee and they report to us. And if you wanted to call it the beautification, that's a perfect name for it, if that organization wants to get put together. Basically, what I would say is, if somebody wants to put some sort of an organization together to pick up the beautification, to take care of the parks, I would say we would love to hear some sort of a plan to approve and to carry on. So it's just gonna take people to step up and put together some sort of basic rules of how parks wanna get taken care of. And it would be just basically governed under the Shorewood Park Sanitary District. The board would, that beautification committee would create the rules and how they wanna approach it. And, you would come to meetings quarterly, yearly, whatever you decided, and however you want to lay that out. But quite frankly, that would make our lives easier, and we wouldn't be policing the parks.
Exactly.
Most of the troubles that we have, or the angst that we have as board members, is not with the sanitary district, it's keeping everybody happy with the roads and the parks, because everybody's got their own opinion on it. So I guess everybody understanding the baseline, and if we had a baseline, it would even help realtors. We could give them information, so when people move in, they know what they're signing up for. Because basically, it's really just old hearsay in the way that it used to be, or how things used to be run, or so on and so forth. So we try to clear that up based on the information that we have. And more participation in these meetings, more work gets done. We try to get people involved as much as we can. And when do we get more information, more things done, is when more people do come to the meetings. Otherwise, it's us, 4 people making the decision, 5 people making the decisions. So.
Well, I can talk to John. We're trying to simplify our lives. I could possibly draw up some kind of a letter that can go out to all the residents to even see if they want to do that.
Yep.
Maybe they love it the way that it is, which is stay the way that it is, and it's just part of the sanitary district, and, or maybe they don't. I don't know. But I think that if people are open to it, we should give them a chance to be open to it, since this is how it was actually set up in the beginning.
I kind of like the verbiage in it, a beautification committee. George Volk tried to put together another new association, basically, and I think this is basically the lines that he was going to, but he just didn't present it well, because it was something that was there before, but it kind of just fizzled out. And I think maybe this is the time that it did fizzle out. Of course, some of the information is how it happened, but I think there is interest of some other entity managing the parks under our umbrella. He wanted to go to the point of that association collects money, and that's what you didn't want to do. You don't want anybody collecting, because you can't manage it, right? You have to have a board,
Well,
and you're shuffling money back and forth and all that other stuff. So,
I mean, it started out with the $11,000 that the residents gave to the sanitary district for lights and roads, and then $2,100 was money that was to be used as specific funding for the beautification of the property maintenance. For yeah.
Jody, what did you have all entailed in beautification?
That's what I was gonna ask too.
So that's where it gets really loose, because as I'm looking through here, it says beautification committee needs to be activated. Get a list of the volunteers from the last homeowners association from so-and-so, and it just says for the beautification. And at the time, I didn't live here, I wasn't living in the area, but I just know that there was a group that cleaned up. They had a fall and a spring cleanup day. It was organized.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah,
Just
so
don't
like,
have any idea.
and a mowing schedule involving
It
people.
wasn't ever a mowing schedule,
Oh, really?
everybody just mowed their own.
There was a spring and fall cleanup.
And, yeah, and if you didn't want to, if somebody was, typically, it was just, we just asked other neighbors, somebody would just always kind of pick up on it. Like,
I think that's wonderful, but doing the channel, and some people, didn't go on it, and it was, and I did hear comments of like, oh, it did go away, it caused a little negativity, not verbally out loud, but there was that little bit of dissension of like, well, they didn't pay for it, I should, that.
The financial support for dredging the
Yeah,
channels.
yeah, and so that's what, I hate to see with anything involved in our community is, but that's the way it is. Some do, some don't, but how do we do that?
Well, it's the same with get volunteers to be on the board, but we do budget money for the parks. It's not a large budget, but we have created a bucket to maintain the parks. So that's something, it's gonna cost money one way or the other, right? Extra mowing, a tree falls down and we can't handle it, there's always gonna be something, there should always be a bucket for the parks, to take care of it. Whatever that is, we put a small stipend in there to pick up anything in case, at least we had something, in case something happened, we could draw from, right?
Like tornado.
Yeah, right, so we're always trying to collect money, and, if we don't use it, of course, it rolls over to the next year, we kind of roll that over. So, just to be clear, there is a budget for the park, and we created that when we created the budget. So, if this beautification thing got put together, I mean, there's always ways to increase that budget, or, create some monies to keep that thing rolling. But again, it's gonna take organization and take somebody, take the bull by the horns and run with it. So I don't think, as a board, we think it's a great idea. But until something moves, we're probably gonna keep rolling the way that we're rolling, just to keep things, status quo. One thing I think we do need to bring up is, how are we gonna approach spring cleanup? I think we had a lesson learned last year, if we're gonna bring him in for an extra cost to do a cleanup, because that was a thorn in a lot of people's
Yeah,
sides.
what we decided is we're just gonna have our lawn service mow one extra time, even though it's not to mow the grass, it's just to mulch the leaves.
Mulch.
So the leaves end up in the ground instead of dead on the surface in the
All
spring.
around all over everybody's yard. So that was the less expensive route to keep things cost down. Now, we can have them, they would come in and clean up the park, but it was pretty
It's
expensive.
like $1,000. So, and just to be clear, as it stands right now, to take care of, to maintain the parks, it's roughly $7 to $8 per resident per month. And if a tree comes down, any other superfluous activity in the parks, there's a waiver that's on the website that anybody can download, sign it, and turn it into us. And then the board and the neighborhood is legally covered for that person's interest in working in the parks. So anybody can work in the parks whenever they want. All we ask is that they go to the website, download the waiver, and then give it to us before they begin any work in the park. And that's where we're at right now.
Yep.
So, I have a question, I'm always a devil's advocate here, but does that any work include like someone deciding a young tree should be cut down?
Well, I think before any trees have to come down, they should talk to the board and say, they just can't go in there and start.
Well,
putting
that's
trees
when
down.
you say any work, that has to be clarified, I
Yeah.
feel.
We don't really have any rules surrounding
No.
anything.
If they don't like the tree, they knock it down, they come home from work, what are you gonna do, right? But we would hope that,
Well,
neighborly people.
Always expect the unexpected.
Exactly.
Were you finished? We don't want to cut you off. Were you
Yeah.
finished?
You're good? All right.
I would like to. I
Are
actually
you
have one
happy,
more thing.
Jody?
I'm always happy. I don't know if you know that about me, I'm always happy.
No, I mean, did we, Are you
Yeah, I
satisfied with
mostly just
how?
wanted to kind of tell you,
Yeah.
like, why, what we remember.
Yeah, I
from
didn't
that.
know that either. I
And,
mean,
you know, that's why there's a lot of people who are questioning, and a lot of people,
Mhm.
there's people who, you talked about, there's some people are not really happy that the grass is being cut too, you know.
Mhm.
Well, you know,
why is it
they,
happening?
and you can please spread this is why the website's there, a lot of people are afraid to use it. There is a
Or come
submission,
here, yeah.
or come to the meeting, but it's really easy. It's just like a suggestion box. All I gotta do is go online and put a submission, and I answer them like that. And if it's something that I can't answer, I'll say, you know, put together a plan, or come prepared and come to a meeting, because that's how it works. Give us an opportunity to review the information that you're giving us, so we can make a good collective decision and get the community involved if that needs to happen. Doesn't move fast. We don't make decisions in a vacuum. We talk about it all the time. So that's one way to be involved. The other one is come to the meetings. And I know it's pretty easy. Like I said, we want more people to come to the meetings. When you have more people, you get better participation, and we get the point of view from everybody. And we're, again, not forced to make those decisions in a vacuum. You had something else?
Yes, so, I don't know, TJ and I, we're both water board members.
Okay.
And we have come to the point where we need to ask the sanitation board for a, what do you call it? A variance, or to allow us to drill a second well within 50 feet of the current pump house in the parkland.
Okay, so based on the processes, you need to put something in a written form, documentation, with a map of where that's gonna go, so we all can kind of get a look at where that's gonna go down.
We don't really know where that's gonna go yet, right?
Right?
We don't have like an X marks the spot
Yeah,
from Trout.
at the moment, no.
Okay.
So I think that'd be first thing, to present some more documentation to the board so we can take a look at it. We have, you know, documentation that we can store and hang on to. And then, you know, we'll have to probably talk to legal to draft some sort of paperwork to bring to the county to make sure that we document that the right way. So, let's start off with the plan first, and then we'll go with the next step. And I guess I would ask you guys if you could do some investigation on what it's gonna take to get that land brought over to you. It might save us money that way.
is there a time frame you're looking at, or that it has to be?
So we have a grant that's been given to us that expires in April.
Okay.
So we need to be drilling by March.
Of next
Yeah. in order
I
to
don't
get
think
this
that
grant.
timeframe's too far out of the way. I would ask Trout for that information of where, you know, you exactly need, I mean, it's a 50-foot perimeter where the house is right now, right?
Right.
I know you guys marked off, there's a stake there 50 feet now. If that's the spot, or if it's gonna be a little bit down in the hole, I mean, I don't think it really makes much difference. But we all know that it has to happen, so I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I just wanna make sure we get the proper documentation. Let's start with a documented plan that we can record, and then figure out what legal information has to be done with the county,
Sounds good.
if anything. So, all right. Is there anything else? I think with that, I'll look for a motion to close.
I'll put a motion to close.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.